What you are about to discover was not lost to time. It was not eroded by the passing of centuries or forgotten in the fading light of a fallen empire. It was erased. A name, the original powerful name of the Creator, was deliberately hidden, its echoes silenced, and its memory buried beneath layers of doctrine and control. For to know this name was to possess a connection so direct, so personal, that no system could govern it. It was a key to a power that belonged not to institutions, but to the individual soul. And in a world of rising empires and consolidated power, such a truth was not just inconvenient, it was revolutionary. It was a fire that had to be extinguished. But fire, once lit, never truly dies. It finds a sanctuary, a hidden place to smolder, waiting for the wind to change. Imagine a land cradled in mist-shrouded highlands, a kingdom carved from ancient stone that never bent its knee to a foreign conqueror, a place where the pulse of history beats to a different rhythm, far from the polished halls of Rome and the councils that would edit the very nature of faith. Here, in this fortress of spiritual independence, a lineage of silent guardians kept watch. While the world was being reshaped by the architects of a new spiritual order, these scribes, with ink made from soot and earth, meticulously preserved a more ancient wisdom. They were not just copying words onto parchment. They were guarding a frequency, a sacred vibration that held the memory of a truth the rest of the world was being conditioned to forget. This is where our journey begins, in the one place on earth that guarded this secret because it was the one place they could never conquer. Have you ever felt it? A quiet, persistent echo in the deepest chambers of your being. A sense that the stories you were told are incomplete. A feeling of separation, a longing for a connection that feels both profoundly ancient and intimately familiar. This is not mere existential ache. It is a form of memory. It is the ancestral memory of a time when humanity's line to the divine was not a frayed thread, but an unbreakable cord. What if that feeling of something missing is not a flaw within you, but the ghost of a truth that was stolen from you? This hidden knowledge was not just an intellectual concept, it was a living part of the human experience, and its removal left a void in the collective soul that we are still trying to fill today. The great mystery is not just what the name was, but why it was so feared. It was more than a label. It was a sonic key, a vibrational reality that could align the human spirit with the creative source of the universe. To speak it with intention was not to summon a distant king on a throne, but to awaken the Creator within. It was a tool of empowerment, a personal conduit that rendered any intermediary obsolete. A population that could connect directly to its source is ungovernable. And so, the system replaced the sacred personal name with generic, hierarchical titles. A living, breathing relationship was transformed into a distant, abstract concept, accessible only through the gatekeepers. The truth of our intimate connection was buried, and the lie of our separation became the foundation of an empire. What follows is not just a historical investigation, it is an act of spiritual archaeology, a journey to unearth the legacy that was forgotten and reclaim the part of our inheritance that was intentionally kept from us. We will travel back through the silent corridors of time, guided by the light of manuscripts that survived the fires of conquest, to uncover the revelation at the heart of this ancient wisdom. This is a story about the power of a name, but it is also a story about your own power, your own name, your own direct and undeniable connection to the infinite. If you feel the call to go deeper, to look behind the veil of accepted history and rediscover a truth that resonates in your soul, then join us on this journey. Subscribe to this channel and let us begin the work of remembering together. What you learn here may not just change the way you see the past. It may change who you believe you are. Our story does not begin in the marbled halls of Rome or the sun-scorched streets of Jerusalem, but in a world apart, a kingdom cradled by the clouds. We travel back to the ancient highlands of Ethiopia, to the heart of the Aksumite Empire in the early centuries of the first millennium. Here, where jagged mountains pierce a sky of deep, endless blue, a different current of faith flowed pure and undiluted. While the rest of the known world was being drawn into the orbit of a rising Roman power, a new spiritual empire forging itself through councils and creeds, Aksum stood alone. It was a fortress of the spirit, a civilization that drank from an older, deeper well of wisdom, one that the architects of the new world could neither comprehend nor control. This is the sacred ground where our mystery was preserved, a place of profound spiritual independence where a forgotten legacy was kept alive. In rock-hewn churches carved from the living stone of the earth, a lineage of silent guardians undertook a sacred task. These were the monastic scribes of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, men whose lives were a testament to preservation. With fingers stained by ink made from soot and earth, they worked in the cool, silent dark, transcribing their holy texts into Ge'ez. This was no ordinary language. Unlike the Greek and Latin that were becoming the languages of empire, Ge'ez was a Semitic tongue that pulsed with a primal connection to early Hebraic and even Kemetic traditions. It was a language that held the memory of the earth itself. Their Bible, the Mechaf Kedus, is one of the oldest and most complete scriptures on earth. A library of ancient wisdom containing books like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees, sacred texts deemed too dangerous, too revealing, and deliberately cast out from the Western canon. These were not just forgotten books, they were the missing chapters of our collective story. As these scribes guarded their ancient truth, a different kind of power was consolidating in the West. The Roman Empire, in the throes of transformation, had discovered a new tool for unity, a force more potent than any legion, a single, state-sanctioned religion. In the 4th century, the councils of Nicaea and Constantinople were convened. These were not gatherings of humble mystics seeking divine truth. They were strategic summits where the very nature of God was debated, edited, and standardized to serve the needs of an empire. Faith was being weaponized, transformed from a personal journey of awakening into a rigid doctrine of control. The goal was uniformity, a single God, a single church, a single emperor. And for this new spiritual order to be absolute, any knowledge that empowered the individual over the institution had to be systematically extinguished. The first and most critical casualty in this war on personal spirituality was a name. Not just any name, but the original vibrational key that connected humanity directly to its creative source. The great and terrible secret, the truth that sent tremors of fear through the halls of power, was this: the name of the Creator was not a title to be revered from a distance, but a frequency to be experienced from within. To know it, to understand its sonic architecture, was to unlock a personal conduit to the divine that required no intermediary. A soul that could connect directly to its source needs no earthly king, no robed priest, no stone temple to validate its existence. It is sovereign, and a population of sovereign souls is ungovernable. This hidden knowledge was not just heresy, it was a revolution waiting to happen. And so, the system began its silent, methodical work of erasure. The personal, intimate name was stripped from the texts, replaced by generic, hierarchical titles that created distance and reinforced a power structure. The vibrant, living reality of the divine source was replaced with the cold, authoritative concept of Lord, or Dominus in Latin. A personal relationship was transformed into a feudal one, with humanity cast as serfs petitioning a distant king. This was not a simple translation choice. It was a profound act of spiritual disenfranchisement. The bridge between the human and the divine was torn down, and in its A place, an institution was built, positioning itself as the sole gatekeeper. The lie of our separation from God became the cornerstone of an empire, a lie that has echoed through the ages, leaving a void in the collective human heart. What does this ancient act of suppression awaken within you? Have you ever felt that profound sense of something missing, a quiet but persistent ache for a connection that feels just beyond your grasp? That feeling is not a flaw in your spirit. It is a scar on the collective soul, an ancestral memory of a time when our connection to the infinite was as natural as breathing. The system taught us to seek validation from the outside, to look for God in books and buildings, to plead for salvation from an external power. But the truth preserved in the silent highlands of Ethiopia whispers of a different reality. It suggests that the kingdom of heaven is not a destination to be earned, but a frequency to be remembered, a state of being that was always ours. The conflict was never between humanity and God. It was between humanity and the systems that sought to sever that sacred bond for their own gain. This is why Ethiopia became the sanctuary for this truth lost. Its geographical isolation was its shield, but its unconquerable spirit was its sword. It was the one kingdom that never bent its knee, the one lineage that never broke. Legends say that the Ark of the Covenant itself, the vessel holding the very presence of God, was brought to these mist-shrouded mountains for safekeeping. Whether literal or metaphor, the meaning is the same. Ethiopia became the guardian of the deepest secrets, the keeper of a sacred trust. While the rest of the world was taught to forget, the scribes in their stone sanctuaries continued their work, preserving not just a name, but the profound revelation that it represented. What exactly was the nature of this vibrational key they guarded with such devotion, and what happens when its echo finally begins to return to the world? The proof of this hidden knowledge is not found in the curated archives of empires or the sanitized libraries of the institutions that wrote our history. It sleeps in the cool, dry air of Ethiopian monasteries, etched onto brittle parchment that has outlasted the very civilizations that sought to erase it. The primary source is the Metshaf Kedus, the Ethiopian Bible. Older, more complete and more raw than its Western counterparts, it is not merely a book. It is a time, a capsule, a vessel carrying a frequency that was deliberately filtered out elsewhere. While other traditions were edited for political and theological convenience, this collection of texts was preserved with a fierce, unwavering devotion. It represents an unbroken chain of transmission, a direct line to a past that the world was conditioned to forget. To hold a Ge'ez manuscript is to touch a piece of that original, undiluted truth, a testament to a wisdom that refused to be silenced. The first layer of evidence lies not in the words themselves, but in the very vessel that carries them, the ancient language of Ge'ez. Unlike the crisp, declarative nature of Latin or the philosophical precision of Greek, languages that became the tools of law, empire, and logic, Ge'ez moves like water, like breath. It is a Semitic tongue, a close cousin to ancient Hebrew and Aramaic, and it carries within its phonetic structure a vibrational resonance that modern languages have lost. It is a language of invocation, designed not just to describe the divine, but to resonate with it. The scribes who copied these texts were not simply transcribing information. They were preserving a sonic signature, a sacred geometry of sound. This is the first clue. The guardians of this secret knew that the name of the Creator was not just an idea, but a frequency, and it could only be truly preserved in a language that could hold its power. Within these sacred texts lie entire worlds of knowledge that were deemed too dangerous for the New World Order. The Book of Enoch, for example, is preserved in its entirety only in the Ge'ez manuscripts. Cast out of the Western canon, Enoch describes a universe far more complex and alive than the simplified model that would later be enforced. It speaks of the workings of the heavens, the names and functions of celestial beings, and a direct, unmediated interaction between humanity and the divine messengers of the cosmos. Why was such a text removed? Because it bestows upon humanity a cosmic context and a level of spiritual access that makes any earthly intermediary obsolete. It suggests that the keys to the universe were not locked away in a distant heaven, but were available to those who knew how to listen. The very existence of Enoch within the Ethiopian canon is a silent testament to the vastness of the knowledge that was deliberately hidden. The trail of this lost truth leads back even further into the heart of the Hebraic tradition from which Christianity emerged. The most sacred name of the Creator, represented by the four letters YHWH, the Tetragrammaton, was considered so powerful, so holy, that it was rarely spoken aloud. Over time, it was replaced in common use by titles like Adonai, meaning Lord. What began as an act of reverence became a tool of control. When the scriptures were translated into Greek and later Latin, the architects of the new faith made a critical decision. Instead of transliterating the name or acknowledging its sacred, unspeakable nature, they systematically replaced it with Kyrios and Dominus, Lord. This was the final act of erasure. The personal, intimate, and vibrational reality of the Creator was fully replaced by a title of feudal authority, a master to be obeyed rather than a source to be experienced. The Ethiopian tradition, by contrast, retained a deeper, more mystical understanding of this sacred name, preserving the memory of its true nature even as the rest of the world was taught to accept the substitute. But the evidence is not confined to parchment. It lives in the oral traditions that have been passed down for millennia, in the sacred chants that echo in the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. These melodies are not music in the modern sense. They are vibrational formulas, acoustic keys designed to attune the human spirit to the divine frequency. The intricate, geometric patterns of the Ethiopian cross are not mere ornaments. They are cosmic diagrams, maps of creation that encode the same principles found in the suppressed texts. The very architecture of their sacred spaces, carved from a single stone, speaks of a unified reality, a connection between spirit and matter that the dualistic doctrines of the West sought to sever. Every element of their tradition, written, spoken, and built, points to the same central truth. Our reality is shaped by a divine vibration, and to know its name is to know the secret of creation itself. Perhaps the most profound proof is not found in any text or artifact, but within you. Have you ever felt it? That persistent, quiet ache of separation, the feeling of a forgotten song whose melody haunts the edges of your memory. This is not a personal failing, it is a collective inheritance, the ghost of a memory that resonates in our very cells. The system that erased the name did so to create a void, a sense of incompleteness that only it could promise to fill. It taught us that we were small, separate, and powerless, forever, seeking a connection that was, in fact, our birthright. The survival of the Ethiopian wisdom is the ultimate proof that this connection was never truly lost, only hidden. It stands as a silent witness, waiting for us to remember. What if the name was not a word to be spoken, but a state of being to be embodied? And what would it take to finally reclaim it? This act of erasure, this deliberate severing of a sacred bond, was not an event confined to the dusty annals of the past. It is a living wound, a spiritual inheritance passed down through the silence of generations. It is the root of a profound and nameless ache that echoes in the heart of modern humanity, a sense of separation, a feeling of being untethered in a vast, indifferent cosmos. Have you ever stood under a canopy of stars and felt an overwhelming sense of both awe and loneliness? That feeling, that quiet desperation for a connection you cannot name, is not a personal failing. It is a ghost. It is the ancestral memory of a wholeness that was taken from us, the hollow space left behind when the key to our own inner universe was hidden away. The system that took the name did not just create a void, it taught us to seek fulfillment everywhere but within. It built magnificent cathedrals of stone and doctrine, pointing our eyes to the heavens, to a distant throne, to an external savior, all while the true kingdom, the resonant frequency of the divine, lay dormant within our own being. We were taught to be petitioners, to kneel and ask for what was already ours. We learned to see ourselves as flawed, broken, and in need of redemption from an outside force, when the ancient wisdom whispered that we were, and always have been, inseparable parts of that force. This is the most insidious legacy of the great forgetting, the belief that we are small and that God is somewhere else. This hidden knowledge, this truth lost to the ages, suggests a reality so fundamentally different that it can shatter the very foundations of our perceived limitations. It speaks of a purpose that is not found but remembered. Your identity is not a collection of experiences and labels acquired in this lifetime. It is an ancient, eternal frequency. Your purpose is not a task to be completed, but a vibration to be embodied. The longing you feel is the call of your own spirit, urging you to remember its native tongue, the language of the cosmos that was silenced but never truly erased. The path to awakening is not one of addition, of learning new things, but of subtraction, of unlearning the lies that have kept you from knowing the truth of who you are. And yet, even under the weight of centuries of forgetting, the memory survives. It hums beneath the noise of the world, a subtle current of truth. It is the inexplicable sense of peace you feel in a silent forest, the surge of creative energy that flows through you in moments of inspiration, the profound, unconditional love that connects you to another soul. These are not random emotional events. They are glimpses of your original state. They are echoes of the great name, moments when you naturally attune to the frequency of creation itself. The guardians in Ethiopia did not just preserve words on parchment. They held a space for this possibility, guarding the knowledge that this state of being was not a myth, but humanity's birthright. This is where the tension rises, where the mystery deepens, for the secret they guarded was not merely a forgotten word to be relearned and spoken. The revelation is far more profound. What if the name was not a noun, but a verb? What if it was not a label for a distant entity, but a description of a dynamic, creative process that is happening within you and all around you right now? This is the truth that made the systems of control tremble. If the power of creation is not a historical event, but a present and accessible reality, then every human being is a potential creator, a sovereign co-author of the universe. The name was a key, yes, but not to a gate in the clouds. It was the key to unlocking the divine potential that sleeps within your own heart. To know this name, then, is not to possess a piece of esoteric information. It is to undergo a radical shift in consciousness. It is to move from seeing yourself as a subject of a distant king to realizing you are a living expression of the kingdom itself. The vibrational architecture of this sacred knowledge aligns the microcosm of the self with the macrocosm of the all. It dissolves the illusion of separation. It is the ultimate act of homecoming. The system built its empire on the lie of your separation. The truth preserved in the silent highlands of Ethiopia is the map that leads you back to the undeniable reality of your unity with the source of all life. The question then is not simply what the name was. The question is, are you prepared to become it? Are you ready to move beyond the stories you were told and experience the truth that resonates in your own bones? The path forward is not a journey to a physical place, to an ancient land of stone churches and faded manuscripts. It is an inward pilgrimage, a descent into the quiet chambers of your own soul, where this legacy forgotten has been waiting patiently for your return. The next layer of this revelation will not be about history or language. It will be about the very nature of your own consciousness and the power it holds to reshape your reality. We have journeyed through mist-shrouded highlands and the silent corridors of time, following the faint echo of a name, a single sacred word that promised to restore a connection long thought severed. We have traced the path of its suppression, understanding why an empire would conspire to erase a truth so powerful. We have stood at the threshold of revelation, believing that the final piece of this ancient puzzle was the pronunciation of a forgotten sound, the recovery of a lost piece of vocabulary. The weight of millennia hangs in this moment, in the air between silence and speech. We have been led to believe that if we could just find this name, everything would change. And in that, we were both right and profoundly mistaken. Here, at the very heart of the mystery, where the light of the ancient Ethiopian manuscripts illuminates the shadows of our own forgetting, lies the turning point. This is the moment of no return, the revelation that does not answer our question, but shatters it completely. The great secret, the truth that was guarded with such fierce and unwavering devotion, was not a word. The name was never a noun to be spoken. It is a verb to be lived. It is a state of being. It is a frequency to be embodied. The system that erased it wanted you to search for a key outside of yourself, to believe that a magic word held the power. But the guardians of this ancient wisdom knew the truth. The name of the Creator is the resonant frequency of creation itself, and it is alive within you. You are not meant to call the name, you are meant to become it. With this single earth-shattering shift, the entire story is transformed. The Ethiopian scribes were not merely preserving a piece of esoteric trivia, they were guarding the most revolutionary concept in human history, the truth of your own divine sovereignty. The Roman system was not afraid of a word that could be whispered in a temple. It was terrified of a silent, internal awakening that could happen in the heart of every man and woman. It feared a population that would stop looking to the heavens for a distant king and start looking within to find a living kingdom. The conflict was never about theology. It was a war on consciousness, a battle for the very definition of what it means to be human. The suppression was not just an act of historical editing, it was the installation of a program of separation deep within the collective human soul. This deeper exploration reveals that the sacred texts and oral traditions were never just about history or law. They were vibrational maps. The chants that echo in the rock-hewn churches are not just prayers, they are sonic formulas for attunement. The intricate patterns of the cross are not just symbols, they are diagrams of the energy of creation. The very act of breathing, when done with intention, becomes an invocation. The rhythm of your own heart is the drumbeat of the cosmos. The name is the harmony between your inner world and the outer universe. To embody this name is to live in a state of alignment so profound that the illusion of separation between you and the source of all life dissolves. It is to realize that you are not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop. This truth, once seen, appears everywhere, a golden thread woven through the suppressed spiritual traditions of the world. It is the divine spark the Gnostics spoke of, the Christ consciousness the mystics sought, the Atman that is one with Brahman in the Vedic texts. In every age, this revelation has surfaced, and in every age the systems built on control and hierarchy have sought to extinguish it. They built walls of doctrine and dogma not to keep you out of heaven, but to keep you from discovering that heaven resides within you. The Ethiopian tradition is so precious because it is the most complete and unbroken vessel of this universal wisdom. a living testament to a reality that refuses to be forgotten. It survived because it was guarded by a people who understood that this truth was more valuable than any empire. The consequences of this revelation rippled directly into your own life, into the quietest corners of your being. That persistent feeling of separation, of spiritual longing, was not a failure on your part. It was not a sign of your unworthiness. It was the result of a lie, an inherited illusion that you were cast out from the garden. This knowledge is the key that unlocks the gate from the inside. It is the permission you may have been waiting for your entire life to reclaim your spiritual authority, to trust the wisdom of your own soul, to know that your connection to the infinite is not something to be earned, but something to be remembered. The power was never taken from you. You were simply taught to forget you had it. To know this truth is one thing. To live it is another. The journey is not over. It has just truly begun. The question is no longer what the name was, but how we can consciously and deliberately attune ourselves to its frequency. The ancient guardians did not just preserve the knowledge, they preserved the practice, the forgotten art of aligning the human instrument with the cosmic symphony. What is this practice? What are the keys, not of language, but of consciousness, that unlock this inner kingdom and allow us to move from knowing the path to walking it? The next layer of this mystery takes us beyond history and into the living, breathing mechanics of awakening itself. The path that began in the mist of the Ethiopian highlands, a journey in search of a lost name, does not end with a sound whispered from an ancient scroll. It culminates here, in the silent, resonant chambers of your own heart. The ultimate revelation, the truth that empires sought to bury beneath layers of doctrine and fear, is this: the name of the Creator was never a word to be uttered, but a reality to be embodied. It is a frequency, a living vibration that animates the cosmos and pulses within the very core of your being. The guardians of this ancient wisdom were not protecting a piece of vocabulary. They were safeguarding the radical, world-altering truth that you are not separate from the divine. You are a living expression of it. The key was never lost. You were simply taught to forget that you are the door. With this understanding, the great wound of separation, the inherited ache of a humanity that believes itself exiled from the garden, finally begins to close. The illusion of a distant, judgmental king on a throne dissolves, replaced by the undeniable reality of an indwelling, creative source. The system that built its power on your sense of smallness and unworthiness is rendered obsolete. There is no intermediary needed, no permission to be sought, no gatekeeper to be appeased. The bridge between the human and the divine was never destroyed. It was simply forgotten. And it is not built of stone or prayer, but of consciousness itself. To awaken to this, truth is to walk across that bridge and realize you were on both sides all along. This ancient revelation is not a relic of history. It is a mirror reflecting your own forgotten face. It is a call to reclaim the spiritual authority that was always yours, to listen perhaps for the first time to the quiet, unwavering wisdom of your own soul. The path of awakening is no longer a search for something outside of yourself, but a process of remembering what is inside. Prayer transforms from a petition into a communion. Faith shifts from a belief in something unseen into a direct experience of the sacred reality that flows through you in every breath, in every heartbeat, in every moment of quiet presence. The divine is not a destination you must journey to. It is the ground upon which you are already standing. The universal lesson, which has echoed through every silenced mystical tradition, is profoundly simple. Every system built on control thrives on your belief that you are powerless. They taught you to seek validation, purpose, and connection from external sources because a population that looks within for its power is ungovernable. The story of this hidden name is the story of your own hidden potential. It is a reminder that the most profound truths are not found in the grand libraries of empires, but in the silent library of your own spirit. To remember this is to move from being a subject in someone else's story to becoming the sovereign author of your own. This knowledge now lives within you, a seed planted in the fertile ground of your awareness. It is not meant to lie dormant. It is meant to grow, to transform the very way you see yourself and your place in the universe. This is where the true journey begins. Now that you know the key was never lost, only hidden within you, what is the first door you will open? Share your thoughts below, for your journey is part of a collective awakening. This is more than a story. It is an invitation to remember who you are. If this truth resonates in your soul, subscribe to continue this journey with us and share this video with one other person who is ready to awaken. This is how a legacy forgotten is reborn, not in the echoes of the past, but in the conscious actions of the present. The greatest truth was never that God had a name. It was that you are, and always have been, a living, breathing syllable of it.